So last Sunday we missed it out, but this Sunday we bring two eminent speaker among with us. We have Dr. Lata Shenoy, Madam, from CIFE. Ma'am is very well known for fishing gear and craft technology book, which also we have read and we have passed out our graduation's degree by reading that book only, and also other of our juniors fellows also they are also reading it and understanding it also in the journey of course. And also we have another speaker, Dr. N. Felix sir, director is Diva Tamil Nadu, Dr. J. Lalita Fisheries University, India. I associate with this sir very from long back, and is also a long journey. Also, we have shared some time in Indonesia together, and I'm also very happy to get two eminent speaker on today Sunday talkies sessions. And our speaker will be addressing two important topics. One is ornamental breeding and culture by Dr. Felix sir, and responsible fishing technology and employment entrepreneurship opportunities in marine fisheries sector by Dr. Lata Shenoy Madam. So without much wasting our time, and I hope today is a very special day. So I like to greet all my teachers, whoever here and whoever not also here, because I can see others are also joined from Kuwait. Mohan Krishnan sir also here with us. So we have lots of people and lots of teachers and gurus are also there. I like to convey everyone happy Teachers Day, and we also start our session with Dr. N. Felix sir on ornamental fish breeding and culture. So sir, over to you, please.
Hello.
Visible, sir. Maybe the down, okay, sir, that hide option you can just minimize. Hide. Yes.
Yes.
Visible, sir. Please. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Damatano, for inviting us for this talk. I have been associated with Dr. Damatano for the last 10 years, and so you all know that ornamental fishes are living jewels, and when we see the global status of these ornamental fisheries, this is the second most popular hobby, and around 100 million hobbyists in the world are following this aquarium keeping as hobby. As you all know that the first most popular hobby is photography. The next is aquarium keeping. This is an important economic activity in more than 125 countries, and these ornamental fisheries, the global trade is 18 to 20 billion US dollars. And in this trade, over 2,500 fish species are contributing. Among these 2,500 fish species, 60% from freshwater and 40% from marine. As far as global ornamental fish import is concerned, here US is the big importer of these ornamental fishes. And unfortunately, we can see that India's share to global ornamental fish export is only 0.4%. Though we have a lot of potential yet to be exploited, and the rank in the exporting country is 31. And here, though the Singapore is a small country, and this is the major exporter, the Singapore exports more ornamental fishes to other countries. And when you see the ornamental fishes Indian scenario, you can see here there is 80% of freshwater ornamental fishes and 20% from marine ornamental fishes. So among the freshwater ornamental fishes, 90% are cultured and only 10% are wild collected. But as far as export is concerned, only the wild collected Indian ornamental fishes are exported. The cultured ornamental fishes are for domestic ornamental fisheries. And as far as marine ornamental fisheries is concerned, 90% are wild collected and only 10% are cultured. And the domestic ornamental fish trade is about rupees 500 crore, and the export trade is 8.4 crores. So as far as ornamental fish export during the period 2004 to 2011 is concerned, the major export is from Chennai 38.18%, then followed by Kolkata 18.78%, and followed by Mumbai 14.34, and very close, this is Cochin 14.14%. So before going to that, we must know what are the benefits of aquarium keeping as hobby. So why should we go for aquarium keeping as hobby? And we all know that it is when we watch the aquarium fishes, it is very much pleasure to the young and old people. So when we are happy, automatically our mind is relaxed, and when mind is relaxed, of course, we have a normal heartbeat and blood pressure. And this is what it is scientifically given that it increases lifespan. And also, when the children are just watching the aquarium fishes, they are counting the number of fishes. They are able to count the number of fishes. While counting, it is also scientifically told that it improves their mathematical knowledge. And also, when they are seeing the color and behavior, and they are able to get some science knowledge also. And uh, there is a sense of attachment with nature. So the children would develop a sense of attachment with nature. And also, well, sometimes what happens is when they are very much attached to this aquarium keeping, and in over the period of time, they also start their self-employment. So these are all the scientific benefits of this aquarium keeping. Of course, though it is not scientifically proved, it is also believed to bring luck, wealth, and prosperity. So, but in a broad classification, the ornamental fishes, according to the breeding methods, we can classify into two categories. One is oviparous and another one is viviparous. So oviparous, all you know that they are all egg layers, and viviparous is live bearers. And the first slide you can see the eggs. And second slide you can see the young ones. That is the fry. And when we come to the egg layers, when we can classify it into further, it is divided into five major categories. One is egg scatterers, and another one is nest builders, and third one is egg depositors, and fourth one is mound brooders, and fifth one is egg barriers. So, when generally speaking, we will discuss detail about all these egg layers. And egg scatterers means those fishes which scatter the eggs are called egg scatterers. They are commonly goldfish and koi carp. And nest builders means like birds, they can also build nest using their saliva on the surface of the water. For example, fighter and gourabi. And egg depositors is they deposit the eggs on some of the substratum. The example is angel and discus. And mound brooders, they can brood their young ones. They can brood the eggs. They keep the eggs as well as the young ones in their mouth. For example, arowana and cichlid fishes, some of the cichlid fishes. Then egg barriers, the typical example is killifish. You must be knowing that in the seasonal rivers and reservoirs, mostly during the summer, the water will not be there. Only during the rainy season, it will be full of water. So the killifishes, when they are in the nature system, what they do is, while the summer is approaching, when the water is completely drained, they started releasing the eggs, and they keep the eggs, they bury the eggs under the bottom, and they die. When the water is not there, the parents will die. Only the eggs will be kept in that is buried in the mud region, and they are kept at dormant stage. Once the water comes, once the rainy season comes, the young ones will be hatched from the eggs, and that's like that the generation comes. So this is a typical example of egg barrier. And when we talk about the live bearers, for any ornamental fish starters, if anybody wants to start the ornamental fish breeding and culture, they can very well go first. They can get experience with the live bearers because the live bearers are very easy to breed and very small fishes. They can be easily breed and they can withstand any hot water also. So these are some of the advantages of live bearers, and any startups they can go for the live bearing ornamental fish breeding and culture. And these live bearers, as already we discussed, they release the young ones. Straight away they release the young ones. The fertilization is internal. The fertilization is not external. The fertilization takes place within the body. They are very small size fishes, very small size fishes. For example, you can see guppies in the top left side and molly top right side, and bottom left is swordtail and bottom right is platy. So these are the some of the examples and common live bearing ornamental fishes cultured in India. They are aggregating in nature. They can come as a group, sociable. They are friendly, peaceful also. But sometimes only during the mating they can fight. Otherwise, they are very peaceful and they can go as a group of fishes. And also, they are hardy in nature. It can survive with any hot and alkaline water. Even the water is alkaline. Even the water is hardness in nature. They can thrive in that particular environment. And they are grazers. So mostly in the case of live bearing ornamental fish tanks, mostly we should not go for live plants because they will grass always they fit the plants. So that's why we go for plastic plants. But even for these live bearers, we can go for live plants. Only what we have to do is we have to maintain the aquarium tank. Every day we have to collect the pit of the plants and we have to remove it. And the important point here is they are prolific breeders. That is continuous breeding. They breed throughout the year. So there is no season for these or live bearing ornamental fishes. They can breed throughout the year. So these are some of the general characteristics: small size, sociable, hardy in nature, and also prolific breeders. And these are some of the variants. So you can see in guppies means there are more than 100 variants are available, and it all depends upon the tail and the color of the tail, the nature of the tail, and body color. It is commonly called in different variants are called with different names. For example, first top left lace tail guppy. The tail is lace like, so that's why it is called lace tail guppy. At the middle, the top multicolor mosaic delta male guppy. You can see the mosaic type. Then top right, you can see half black, blue, delta male guppy. This will be half black color, half blue color. That's why it is called half black, blue, delta male guppy. Then albino gold. You can see the faded gold color, that is albino gold. Then platinum sunset. When sunset, you can see the color. So similarly, this which is also same color. That's why it is named as platinum sunset. Then you can see golden snake skin. It is like the skin is like snake skin. That's why it is called. Then red delta. So these are some of the variants of the guppies. So similarly, in the case of live bearing mollies also, there are different types of variants. You can see the sailfin silver molly, the top left one. You can see sailfin. The dorsal fin is sail-like, and the middle is black molly, black in color. Then orange molly and black balloon molly. You can see the molly is balloon in shape. The shape is balloon in shape. That's why it is called black balloon. Then silver balloon, silver color, balloon shape. Then sailfin molly. Then comes this wattage. I'm just showing the slides of some of the variants. There are number of variants available in the market. You can see here swordtail also. The specialty of this swordtail fish is the tail is sword-like, but this sword is available only in the male, not in the female. The female, the fin, the caudal fin or the tail fin is normal in shape. You can also see some of the variants here. It all based on the color and tail it is named. Then comes platy. Here also you can see the red platy and orange platy and high fin. The dorsal fin is very high nature, that's why it is called high fin platy. So these are some of the variants of the live bearing ornamental fishes. A general water quality parameters for this ornamental, that is live bearing ornamental fishes, is pH should be 7 to 8 and hardness 100 to 150 ppm and temperature normal 27 to 29 degree centigrade. So when they attain maturity, so most of the live bearing ornamental fishes attain maturity at the age of 6 months. Sometimes, in some cases, even they attain maturity at the month, even 2 months old guppies and platy can also mature. But generally, they mature at the age of 6 months. When they are, it depends upon the size. For example, molly or swat and guppies, when they are 4 to 6 inches, they can become mature. And how to identify male and female. So the identification is very easy also in the case of live bearing ornamental fishes. And when they attain at the age of 6 months, and you can see, but in the young one stage, you cannot identify male and female. When they are attaining maturity at the age of 4th month or 5th month or 6 months, you can see the male and female. The male, generally, you can see here, the size of the male is smaller. So, in the case of ornamental fishes, male is very small in size compared to female. So, at the same age group of fishes, if you are seeing the males are smaller in size and females are larger in size. And you can see the color, brightly colored and attractive. The males are very much brightly colored and attractive. And but in the case of female, they are compared to male, they are dull in color. And third point, fins. You can see the fins. The dorsal fin or caudal fin are larger in size in the case of males, but in the case of female, very short. The dorsal fin or caudal fin is comparatively shorter. So only in the case of size, when we compare the size, males are smaller, females are larger. But in the case of comparing the fin shape, the fin is larger in the case of male, the fin is smaller in the case of female. And belly region, you can see the belly region. The belly region is very much flat in the case of male fish, and in the case of female, the belly region is bulged in nature because it contains a lot of eggs. That's why it is bulged. And here the specialty is here it is also having a reproductive organ. But in the case of egg depositors, egg layers, there is no reproductive organ you can see outside. But in the case of live bearing ornamental fishes, you can see the reproductive organ. In the picture, first picture, top left, you can see the male, the pelvic fin, you can see a rod-like or tube-like structure. This is the pelvic fin, the rays. There are different rays are available in the pelvic fins. Some first, third, fourth, and fifth. These pelvic rays are joined together and they form a tube-like structure or rod-like structure. Through this rod-like structure, through this tube-like structure, they are transferring their sperm into the female belly region. So this is why this reproductive organ is called as gonopodium. You can see the male fish gonopodium, but in the case of female, the gonopodium is absent. So you can see the top left first photograph, the pelvic fin is rod-like structure, but in the case of top right side, you can see the fins are normal in shape. Similarly, in the middle fish also you can see the fin shape is, the pelvic fins are normal in shape. This is how we can differentiate males and females. You can easily differentiate the males and females. So breeding. So how to set up a breeding tank? Whether we should go for only for glass tanks or cement tanks or FRP tanks or any type of tanks can be used for the breeding of ornamental fishes. Minimum capacity, even we can go for 20 liters or 50 liters or 100 liters. even 500 liters. So whatever may be the tank size, we can go for the breeding of live bearing ornamental fishes. According to the availability of the tanks with us, we can go for the breeding of live bearing ornamental fishes. So when they are getting mature at the age of 4th month or 5th month or 6 months, we are able to identify the male and female. When after identifying the male and female, we have to condition the breeders. So how to do the conditioning? We should make them feel. We should make the male and female fish feel that they are going to breed. So that type of conditioning we should make it. They should physiologically as well as mentally they should be prepared. We should prepare them and they should also feel that they are going to breed. So in such a way, the breeding tank should be conditioned. So we have to put some aquatic plants, whether it's a live aquatic plants can also be made, or in some cases, what we can do is even we can put some banana leaves on the surface of the water, or some of the nets can also be placed inside the conditioning tanks. So this type of conditioning is very important. So, that is, and after conditioning here we should make them male and female. What is the ratio of male and female? There is for one male, 4 females. We can go for 3 to 4 females can be placed. For each male, 3 to 4 females can be placed inside the breeding tank. Because why we are going for higher number of females and lower number of males? The reason is the males are able to fertilize the eggs. They are able to transfer the sperm in 3 to 4 females. They can have that much quantity. So we need not go for equal ratio. 1 male and 4 female is more than enough. And after that, what is happening is the male will transfer the sperms through their gonopodium, and within the female's body, already the eggs are there in the mature condition in the females. So internal fertilization is taking place inside the female's body, and the gestation period is 4 to 6 weeks. Approximately it is 1 month period of time. So 1 month period of time is gestation period. The male is transferring the eggs, and already the matured eggs are available in the female's body, and they are mixing together inside the body. Internal fertilization takes place. 1 month is the gestation period. After 1 month, the egg modes are released. Here you can see the video. The bottom is female, the top one is male. You can see the male is brightly colored. Here, this is the female fish, belly region. You can see bulged belly region, and this is ready to release the young ones. You can see one fry is released, and he started releasing the fry and released so many fries from the female fish brooder. So next you can see even maximum 200 to 250 young ones from one female fish. It all depends upon the size of the fish. So before breeding, the top one is female, the bottom one is the male. That is very flat in nature. After you can breeding, you can see the female belly region become flat because all the young ones are released from the female fish. So this is what we talked about the breeding tanks. What type of breeding tank we can use? This type of breeding tanks. This can be used as breeding tank as well as the culture tanks. So the maximum, how many young ones, how many fry from one female fish can be expected? It is ranging from 50 to 200. It all depends upon the size of the fish body. And another important character here is once the female become pregnant and release the young ones, after 2 or 3 times, male is not at all required because already the transferred male sperm is available in the female's body. Once the female eggs become mature, the next set of female eggs are getting mature, the already our transferred sperm inside the female's body is used as it will be fertilized used as fertilizing, the eggs and fertilization takes place. So this is how even for 5 to 6 times, once you are keeping the male and female in a breeding tank, after 5 to 6 times, the already transferred sperm in the female's belly region can be utilized to fertilize the eggs whenever they are getting mature. So after some time, again we can go for the release of the male fish. So this is how we can. It is possible to get from one female fish within 1 year. It is possible to get 8 to 10 times. For example, in a bigger molly fish, if you are getting one time, you are getting 200 fishes. Means from 1 year, it is possible from one fish 10 into 200. That is around 2000 young ones. 2000 fry can be received from one female fish from 1 year. So how to feed them and what are the feeds should be used? So that and all we will see in the last slide. And this is about the live bearing ornamental fish breeding. So how to breed the ornamental fish? So maturing. So at what time it is getting matured at 4 months or 6 months. Then how to identify the sex of the fish, male and female. Males are brightly colored, females are dull in color and size and reproductive organ. Then we are conditioning the breeders and keeping a breeding tank. There you are keeping 1:4 male and female ratio and keeping some of the aquatic plants there. The aquatic plants, the purpose of aquatic plants, keeping the aquatic plants is to make them the young ones to hide. Because the reason is once the fish release the young ones, they start eating the fry. That's the problem. So we have to make some hideouts. For that only we are making aquatic plants. When aquatic plants or banana leaves are spread on the surface of the water, what will happen is these young ones will hide under the banana leaves or it is in the leaves of the aquatic plant. So the parents, from the parents, it can escape. So that's why we are keeping the aquatic plant. So this is about the live bearing ornamental fish breeding. Then comes to the egg layers. So egg layers, here there is no internal fertilization. Eggs are released into the water. Fertilization is external. The fertilization takes place in the water. So that is the main difference between the live bearing and egg layers. Here in the egg layers, we are going to discuss about the egg scatterers. So what is egg scatterers? Those fishes which scatter the eggs, which spread the eggs, are called egg scatterers. So when they scatter the eggs, what is the type of eggs? What is the nature of the eggs? Whether they are aggressive in type, maybe some fishes it is aggressive in nature, some fishes it is semi-aggressive in nature, some fishes non-aggressive. Some fishes, for example, it can attach with some of the plants or some of the substrata. Some fishes when they are releasing, they are semi-aggressive. Some little aggressive in nature, and some eggs when they are released, they are not aggressive. They will not attack with anything. Just they will be released and they will be on the bottom of the tank. So first we are going to discuss about the goldfish. So as you all know that there is the goldfish is the common egg layers and they are typical example for the egg scatterers. Once a startup can go for the live bearing ornamental fishes, then he can think of breeding of the goldfish because the goldfish breeding is also comparatively little easy for the startups. So these goldfish, there are again in goldfish also there are different variants are available. Common goldfish, subaltine, comet, fantail, calico, whaletail, blackmore, calico, telescope, globi, Popeye gold, and you can see lionhead, celestial, pompons, borado, and bubble eye, pearl scale. So there are a lot of variants are available in the goldfish also. So goldfish when they can attain maturity. So normally all the goldfish attain maturity at the age of 6 to 8 months of period of time. Again, it depends upon the feed what we are giving. If we give a good quality feed, it will attain maturity even at the age of 6 months. So it all it depends upon the diet, the food what we are giving to the fish. Here you can see once they become mature, how to differentiate male and female of the goldfish. Normally, all the goldfishes, except some common goldfish, all the goldfishes, you can see the belly region, almost they are bulged in nature. So how to differentiate male and female? But comparatively, when compared with male, females are more bulged. So that is one characteristics of the female fish. Another one is you can see the top plate here, breeding tubercles. In male fish, the tubercle white spots are present on the gill cover. So this is the one more characteristics of the goldfish, male goldfish. But in the case of female goldfish, the breeding tubercles are not present. So only the male breeding tubercles are present. So another thing, how to differentiate male and female, you can see the abdomen region. Here, in this abdomen region, the region is somewhat pinkish in color in the case of female, but in the case of male, it is whitish in color. So this is again the differentiate. And when we see the fully mature female, when they are swimming on the water, in the water, when they are swimming in the water, you can see that the body, the belly region is rotating like a pendulum with the clock. So because the reason is the loosened the eggs are already loosened. So when the eggs are matured and loosened, what is happening is when they are swimming, the belly region alone is rotating. So that means the female is fully mature. And another character how we can differentiate is just gentle press the abdomen gently. In the case of male, white fluid will come out. That is called milt. That is the milt of the male fish. And when we gently press the female fish, you can see the eggs coming out from the belly region. So these are some of the important characteristics from which we can differentiate goldfish, whether it is a male fish or female fish. After differentiating, you can see some of the swimming tanks here. You have to keep some aquatic plants, or we can see some of the nets can also be put inside the tank. When we are keeping the aquatic plants, collecting aquatic plants from wild and putting inside the tank should not be done, because the reason is when you collect from the wild, it is having lot of mosquitoes, lot of insects, lot of worms and pathogens. So you should not be directly transferred to the breeding tank of the male fish. You should be already transferred, and we should culture the aquatic plants in our system for 1 month period or 2 month period of time. After that, just give you a potassium permanganate wash so that we can remove some pathogens attached with that, or some of the organisms attached with the aquatic plant. Then you can transfer the aquatic plants inside the breeding tank. We can go for 100 liters, 200 liters, whatever size we have, we can go for that. Even we can go for some of the hoppers situated in the right side, like, and this type of tanks can also be used. So goldfish, you can see here, when we put the aquatic plants, after that, the male and female should be released. You can see here, this here you can see the female fish here. The belly region is bulged, and 2 males for 1 female. Here we have to put 2 males or 1 female. You can see the eggs. All the eggs are released. You can see the eggs released. And after 72 hours, we should remove the breeders from the tank. After 72 hours, you can see the young ones. Here, these type of eggs are white eggs, are unfertilized eggs. These eggs are what like. After that, you can see after 72 hours, the egg ones are released. They cannot immediately swim. They cannot swim for 2 to 3 days. After that, only they can start swimming. When they start swimming, then only we have to feed them. Until then, they feed the egg yolk present attached with the young ones. You can see here. In the case of goldfish, I have shown the video. 2 males and 1 female. Why this is the ratio? Here in the live birds, you can see the ratio 4 females, 1 male there. But in the case of goldfish or any egg layers, the ratio will be somewhat, that is 1:1 or 2:1. Male will be little more number. The reason is because the eggs present in the females, the sperm present in one male will not be sufficient to fertilize the eggs of the one female. So because one female can lay about 500 to 10,000 eggs. It depends upon the size of the fish, variance, everything. So one male, the sperm from the milk from the one male is not sufficient to fertilize the eggs of the one female. That's why we are going for 2 males and 1 female. And you might have seen the video also that after the young ones are released from the eggs, they are not able to swim. They are just without movement. They are there because at the time they are attached with yolk. So that time also we should not feed them. We should not feed anything until they start swimming. We should not feed anything because they can eat the yolk attached with that particular fish and they can thrive. After they start swimming, only we have to give the feed. So similarly, koi carp also similar type of breeding, but only difference here is here the maturity. They attain maturity only after 1 year or 1.5 years. So that is the major difference between goldfish and koi carp. And among the egg scatterers, other fishes are rosy paw and top left, and nearby is rosy paw, and top right. The 2 pictures are tiger paw. Then bottom you can see the breeding tank left, and right you can see the danio, and extreme right you can see the shark fish. So these are some of the egg scatterers, and just I want to touch upon the breeding. They also attain maturity at the age of 6 to 7 months. And in the case of rosy paw, you can see top left, you can see the rosy in color. That means when they attain maturity, male become rosy in color, female is as such. They are somewhat orange in color. And similarly, in the case of tiger paw, you can see the left one is with red edges. That is, fins are with red edges. But the right one, you can see the right one, bottom one. There is no red edges. You can see the male and female difference is. You can see the attractive color in the case of male. The dorsal fin, pelvic fin, the edges of dorsal and pelvic fins are red in color. And in the case of female, they are as such in orange in color. So like that, we can differentiate rosy paw and tiger paw. And here also we are having a breeding tank like goldfish, and mostly these rosy paw or tiger paw lay semi-aggressive eggs. But in the case of goldfish and koi carp, they lay aggressive eggs. And all these fishes, we must ensure that after release of the eggs, the parents will start eating the eggs. That's why we have to remove the parents. The parents should be removed. Either parents should be removed or the eggs should be removed. So this is about the egg scatterers of the egg layers. Then next comes the nest builders. This is again the subdivision of the egg layers. Nest builders is nothing but we are all seeing the birds building a nest. Similarly, fishes are also building nest on the surface of the water. How they are building up? They are releasing some saliva. Using their saliva, they are able to create air bubbles. The air bubbles created on the surface of the water is the nest. Here you can see the top left is fighter fish. Top left, first one is fighter male fish. Top right, first one is female fish. You can see there easily you can identify male and female of the fighter fish. The fighter male is a very long dorsal fin, very long pelvic fin, very long tail. But in the case of female fighter fish, very short. Caudal finish very short, pelvic finish short, dorsal finish very short. And here the important thing is when they attain maturity, male attain maturity and female attain maturity, what we have to do is the male will fight with other males and females. So after they attain maturity, after they start creating or building the nest, that building the air bubbles, it is the indication that the male fighter is ready for breeding. Then what we have to do is we have to remove each and every fighter and keep it in a small bottles, because we cannot keep it as a population in one tank. What will happen is these male fighters will fight with other males, and also we cannot keep the male and female fishes also in the same tank at the time of breeding. Of course, during the time of breeding, we have to keep one male and one female. But in the case of maturity, after attaining maturity, we should keep the males and females in a separate tank. And also the males should be, each male should be kept in a separate bottle, and female population can be kept in a one tank, because they will not fight with each other. And similarly, you can see the right things, Gaurami. You can see the Gaurami. Here also the thing is the very large fins is the major difference between the male and female. Here you can see the bottom air bubbles are there, and you can see in the middle of the bottom side how the male press the female's body. When the male press the female body, the young ones are released. Here you can see the video. The female and male. You see, the male, the female is releasing the eggs and male is collecting the eggs. Male will collect the eggs and male collect the eggs and keep it in the air surface, the surface, air bubbles. You can see the young ones are released. After 48 to 56 hours, the young ones are released. So here also, after young ones are released, we should not feed them. When they start swimming, then we have to feed them with Daphnia and other Moina, everything. Then comes the egg depositors. So why the name is called deposit? They deposit the eggs on the surface of the some stones or pit, anything, whatever maybe whatever substrate available, they deposit the eggs. There are two types of egg depositors. One is open water spawners and another one is secretive spawners. So open water spawners, you can see the right top one. Top one you can see the open. Openly it is depositing the eggs on the stone or rock. And in the case of secretive spawners, you can see the bottom one. What they do is they deposit the eggs in the caves. And in the case of our artificial system, if you are putting a flower pot, they release the deposit the eggs. So open water openly deposit the eggs, and secretive means they want some caves, they want some secret place to deposit the eggs. They are depositing. Here, these two fishes are showing the biparental care. In the case of egg scatterers like goldfish and koi carp, ossipar, tiger carp, there is no parental care. But in the case of nest builders, there is a parental care, unique parental care. Single parent is taking care of, that is, male fish is taking care of the eggs and young ones. In the case of egg depositors, biparental, both male and female, both mother and father takes care of these eggs and release of the young ones. What they normally do is they are showing high standard of parental care. First, they clean the substrate. When they identify the substratum, they clean, because it should be cleaned there should not be any dust particles or any pathogens, any organisms. No, they clean. And after that, what they do is, after they release the eggs, after releasing of the eggs, they fanning using their fins. They make a fan movement. So they erect the eggs, and after that, they using their mouth, they remove the dust particles deposited around the eggs, so that the eggs are not spoiled, though we can get young ones from the eggs. So typical example for these eggs depositors is angelfish. You can see the angelfish and Oscar and discus. So these three are the important egg depositors, and they are available in the market. And the important peculiar character of this angelfish, discus, Oscar is natural pair. For example, in the egg scatterers, nest builders, and there is no natural pairing. We can select the male, we can select the female. But in the case of angelfish, discus, and Oscar, we cannot select the male and female. They will select their male, they will select their partner. Male will select their female partner. So what we have to do is, after the fishes become 3 months old, we should keep in a shore like, in a group like, in a own aquarium tank, or in a some aquarium tanks. We have to keep some 12 to 20 fishes in one tank. And mostly these fishes are attaining maturity at the age of 10 months to 1.5 years. Depends upon the size of the fish and also the species of the fish. During the third month, we have to keep the fishes in all the fishes. We cannot, because in the fry stage or 3 months old, we cannot differentiate male and female. So what we have to do is, we have to keep it in a show like in one aquarium tank. Or they grow, then after 9th month or 8th month, what they will do is, the male will select their own partner. So you can see a pair, each pair. You can see some pairs in the aquarium tank. After that, we have to collect the pair, and then we have to put it in the breeding tank. Then we have to go for the breed. So this is what we have to do it for angelfish, discus, and Oscar fish. But in the case of angelfish, how to place the substrate to deposit the eggs, how to place the substrate, slanting angle. We can put a slanting angle substratum. There you can see the pictures, you can see here they are depositing the eggs. And Oscar fish, this is different. We have to keep, we should not keep the substratum slanting in a position. We have to keep it in a horizontal position. And here discus, you can see it can be kept in a slanting position, discus. And the discus is differing from angelfish and Oscar. How it differentiate is, here after the young ones are released, the young ones, what they will do is, they will just take the milk secreted from the female's body. So that is the food for them for some period of time. So this is about the egg depositors. So then comes the last one is mouth brooders. So here also there is two different types of mouth brooders, means the fish which keeps eggs as well as fry in their mouth is called mouth brooders. Some keep only that egg alone. Some fishes will keep egg as well as larva. Both they will keep. During the time, they will not feed. For at least for 2 weeks, they will not feed their feed. You can see some of the mouth brooders in the cichlid fish. You can see here, first top left is male peacock cichlid, then right one is female peacock cichlid. You can see after attaining maturity, the color is entirely become different. The peacock, both are peacock cichlid, but female peacock cichlid is color is dull in color, but male peacock cichlid is completely, it is attractive bluish in color. Here you can see some of the fishes. You can see here with mouth full of young ones. You can see different colored cichlid fishes. The specialty of these cichlid mouth breeding fishes are, when they attain maturity, the male will become attractive color, entirely different color, and female will be continuing as the similar color only. And mostly what they will do is these type of cichlids will release their eggs in the bottom, and after that the female, after releasing the eggs, they collect the eggs from the bottom substratum, and after that you can see the top third picture. Some in the pelvic fin you can see some spots, egg spots. These egg spots are present in the male fish. You can see the egg spots are present in the male fish. What they will do is, after the female female releases the eggs, and after releases the eggs, they collect the eggs through using their mouth. After collecting the eggs, they go to near to the male fish, and they see some of the eggs are left out in the pelvic fin of the fish, male fish. They think that they left out the eggs in the male fish pelvic fin, but that's not correct. Actually, this is a character developed by for the male cichlid fish. These are all dummy eggs. They are not original eggs. They are dummy eggs. What is happening is, after the female collect the eggs, they go near to the male fish, and they think that they are all the original eggs, so they want to collect through their mouth. When they are collecting the dummy eggs through their mouth, during the time the male releases the sperm, the released sperm is also collected by the female's mouth. There, in their mouth, the eggs and milk or the sperm is mixed together, and fertilization takes place. Then the egg comes up. So this is about the cichlid fish breeding. And here Aravana is also typical egg depositors. You can see. I will show the video here. You can see the video. You can see how many eggs. The eggs are released by the female. The male fish is collecting the eggs here. In the Aravana, male fish is collecting the eggs. But in the other cichlid fishes, female is collecting the eggs. You see here. Yes. So they are attached with the egg yolks, and they are started disappearing. The egg yolk started disappearing slowly. Then they start eating the food, whether it is any worms or cockroaches or small insects. They start eating. So this is about overall picture about the breeding of the ornamental fishes. And now, what are the live feeds? So whether it's a live bearing fish or egg laying fish, we have to feed them with live feeds initially, because there are micro encapsulated feed, there are formulated feeds, but yet to replace the live feeds. So we have to go for live feeds initially. As already told, straight away for live bearing ornamental fishes, we can straight away start giving the live feeds after the young ones are released from the female's body. But in the case of egg laying fishes, after the young ones comes out from the female's body, they start eating their own egg yolk attached with their body. After some period of time, they start free swimming. When they start free swimming only, we have to give them live feeds. So we can give them Daphnia. Daphnia is the most and very important food item. The Daphnia, if you give Daphnia to all these small live-bearing, small young ones, they attain very good growth, as the health is also very good. And when they are becoming little bit bigger in size, we can also go for tube effects and bloodworms. And mostly these tube effects and bloodworms are given during the period of breeding time. When they start after attaining the maturity to condition the breeders, mostly these tube effects and bloodworms are given for 1 week to 10 days period of time. When we give tube effects and bloodworms, because of the availability of fatty acids, essential amino acids, and unknown growth promoters and breeding the vitamin C and vitamin E availability, the eggs are very good health in condition, good health condition, and we can get a good fry from the fish. And these are all the feed mills available in our university at Muthukkadu, Chennai. Here we have a feed mill, and we also give the feed for the flower horn fish, goldfish feed also. And so how we can formulate the feed? Whether we can formulate the feed. Once we give live feeds for a period of 15 to 20 days, then we can switch over to formulated feeds. So normally a typical and good formulated feed with because for ornamental fishes, the feed should target not only the growth, it should target also the color. The color is the important criteria. So for that, we have a formulated feed, that is fish meal, shrimp meal, fish soluble, krill meal, fish oil, soybean meal, corn flour, maida, wheat flour, lecithin, L-amino acids, digestive enzymes, dried yeast, garlic, gelatin, astaxanthin, spirulina, vitamin mix, mineral mix. So all these ingredients are mixed together, and with our feed mill facility, we prepare floating feed. Normally, with this type of inclusion, the protein level is 41%, but for live bearing ornamental fishes, we can go for 32% crude protein. For flower horn fish, we can go for 40 to 48% crude protein. For other cichlid fishes, we can go for 36% protein feed. And again, it depends upon the locally available ingredients. We can also formulate the feed, and accordingly we can prepare the feed and we can give the feed to the fishes. But the important thing is, when we prepare the feed, it should promote the color of the fish. For the case of flower horn, it should promote the growth of the hump. And also, when we put the feed in the aquarium tank or any culture tank or breeding tank, we should not spoil the water. So there should not be bleaching. We should see that the feeds we prepared is water stable and there is no bleaching in the feed. And also we should see that it is meeting all the nutritional requirements of the particular fish. And we can also go for synthetic color attractants like astaxanthin, cataxanthin, and beta carotene. Apart from that, we have also tried with carrot, pumpkin, and these color enhancers. Also, we have tried, and we have also succeeded with these color materials. And among the fishes, the important thing is what are all the problems? How to identify the sick fish? So, always we should keep the fish healthy. For that, the better management practices for ornamental fishes is we should keep the water clean. The water should be very clean. We have to make a clean environment. And the feed, how much feed should be given, that alone should be given. We should not go for overfeeding, we should not go for underfeeding. So similarly, what are the water quality parameters? Whether the pH is optimum, whether the temperature or hardness, alkalinity, dissolved oxygen, and everything is at optimum level, we should maintain. If you are maintaining at optimum level, and if you are giving the nutritious feed, and also according to the requirement, if you are feeding them and using some filters, what we can do is we can maintain a healthy and clean environment so that we can avoid any disease. In some cases, sometimes what is happening is if you are not maintaining the aquarium tank or culture tank properly, then we can find some of the diseases. Then for that, what we have to do is we have to. It is better always to prevent the diseases. Otherwise, if disease comes, there are a lot of medicines available in the market. That medicines can be used. So how to identify this sick fish? Loss of appetite. They will not feed. They will be weak. They lose their buoyancy. They come to the surface. They will be always on the side of the wall. So like that, there are some of the symptoms for which we can identify the sick fish. So when we identify some of the sick fish and identify the disease, then we have to give the proper medicine. So these are some of the diseases of the ornamental fishes. You can see lot of bacterial diseases, viral diseases, fungal disease, parasitic diseases. Lot of diseases is common in the ornamental fishes. Only the problem is when we are not keeping the clean environment, then only all these diseases will come. So otherwise, we can avoid the diseases. And you can see the top swim bladder disease. Top left one is the upside down. The fish swims upside down. This is called now common disease is swim bladder disease. And the top next one is dropsy. You can see next one is also dropsy. Dropsy is the scales are protruded. And the bottom one, you can see the left one. You can see the Lernaria diseases, fish lice. You can see the bottom right. You can see the orbless. These are the parasitic. Bottom one is parasitic diseases. Top one is the bacterial diseases. For that, what we can normal medicines we can use is potassium permanganate, salt, antibiotics like oxytetracycline, methylene blue, malachite green, organophosphates, metformin. These type of medicines can be purchased and can be given. So otherwise, what all the medicines available in the market can also be given to the fish. So first of all, we must see that we should avoid we have to prevent the diseases. We have to give you a proper feeding and the proper maintenance of the water quality. Then we can avoid the diseases. And finally, we can come to a conclusion that how to set up a aquarium tank in our house. We can what are the equipments required? One is glass tank is required. Whatever may be the size, then gravels and aquatic plants, whether it is an original plants or natural plants or artificial plants, and heaters in the case of winter season, and some of the filters and air pumps. With these available equipments, we can easily set up the aquarium tank. And only thing what we can see is if we maintain the aquarium filters properly. And for example, if you the right size of the aquarium filters, that is right quantity of the aquarium filters should be necessary. For example, for 50 liters tank, how many aquarium filters are necessary? Or how much capacity of aquarium filters is necessary? Accordingly, we have to put them in the these filters, and every 2 or 3 days, we have to remove the sponge available in the filters, and we have to clean it. If not, if we are cleaning 2 or 3 times after that, we have to replace with a new sponge. Then the filtration will be efficiently done. So there won't be any dust particles in the aquatic, that is aquarium tank. It will be very clean environment we can maintain. Only with the availability of aerators or air pumps and filters and good food, we can easily keep the aquarium tank for a long time without any problem, without any disease problem. Only thing is the filters are very much important, and this is aquarium keeping is picking up worldwide and India also. And this is a very simple. Most of the people will think that we have to frequently we have to exchange the water like that. The people will think about that, but it is not at all necessary. When we keep a good aquarium filters, we need not exchange the water. Even 3 months, 4 months, we need not exchange the water. Only after 2 or 3 months, we have to exchange some 10 to 20% of the water. Then we get to replace with the new water. So like that, we can maintain the aquarium tanks.
So today my presentation will be on responsible fishing, technologies and employment entrepreneurship opportunities in marine fisheries sector in the context of PMMSY. Now we all know fisheries play an important role in our national economy for food security, for exports, for export food value, food security, employment, exports, etc. And when we look at the total fish production in 1920, it is 14.15 million metric tons, out of which 3.72 is marine and 10.43 inland. Now, over a period of time, the marine proportion of marine fish production has been coming down, and inland fish production has been going up. And our export revenue is in the 1920 46,662 crores, and realizing the huge untapped potential in the fisheries sector, Government of India started a mission which is called Neel Kranti Mission or the Blue Revolution in 2015. Now, after an year or so, the Government of India came up with operational guidelines of Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is usually called PMMSY. That was in June 2020, which is a very flagship program of Government of India, which was launched with a total allotment of 20,000 and over crores for the 5-year period from 2021 to 24-25. So we have just started with the scheme, and along with the PMMSY for the development of fisheries, again we have an important scheme which is called the Fisheries and Aquaculture Infrastructure Development Fund of 7,522 crores. Now, since my presentation will be focused more on marine fisheries, so what I've done is I've taken out the major initiatives in the PMMSY document, major initiatives for marine fisheries development. Now, which include promotion of responsible fishing, deep sea fishing, infrastructure development, adoption of 100% certification and traceability, promotion of sea cage farming, seaweed cultivation, ornamental fisheries, and strengthening of regulatory framework. And a major thrust has also been given on the development of island fisheries. Now, the Government of India implements these schemes through the National Fisheries Development Board, and we all know the important role NFDB plays in achieving Blue Revolution, because that's the body which channelizes the Government of India funds, provides technical guidance, capacity building and creation of awareness, monitoring physical and financial progress of projects, undertake developmental activities for sustainable and responsible fisheries development, accelerate the overall growth of fisheries sector with the application of modern technology. Now, this slide I wanted to show just to highlight the fact how the switch over from main marine fish production to the inland fish production. Now, here, if you see in these graphs, in 1950-51, inland fish production was only about 29%, and the major share was from the marine sector, which was 71%. Now, that role has been reversed. Now, in 17-18, if you see, inland fish production is almost 71%, and marine is 29% of the total fish production. So now the focus is on inland fish production, but we cannot ignore the marine fish production, and there are other resources also in the marine fisheries which can be taken up under culture. So I'll come to that little later in the presentation. Now, what is responsible fishing? Because in the PMMSY, there has been a lot of stress on development of responsible and sustainable development of fisheries. So we need to understand the significance of responsible fishing, which means that fishing which is conducted in a responsible manner without affecting the ecology environment while ensuring long-term sustainable yield and maximum socio-economic benefit to fishers. So it covers the resource, the ecology, environment, socio-economics, and the sustainability of sustainable yield. Now, this entire responsible fishing, we put it under what is called the code, which is called the Code of Conduct for Responsible Fisheries, which is an internationally accepted code which aims at achieving sustainability. Again, as I said, preserving the environment, safeguarding biodiversity of ecosystem for present and future generations. So here it is when we say present and future generations, that is where we talk about the sustainable development. So it is not the short-term yield which we need to focus on, it is the long-term sustainable yield, for which we have to promote eco-friendly fishing practices for responsible and sustainable fishing. Now in PMMSY scheme, there is a provision for need-based support to states and union territories for formulation and implementation of fisheries management plans in lines with the requirements of CCRF. Now, what I have done in my presentation is first I will discuss about certain technologies related to conservation of marine fish resources, then increasing the efficiency of fishing operations, and the technologies for the safety of fishermen. So all the technologies related